It's great to be here and hopefully speaking to some future industry leaders. Firstly, congratulations on choosing an incredible school and also an incredible industry, full of variety and hopefully new experiences as you go through. Every day of my life is guaranteed to be different to the one that I just left, which is kind of what has kept me going after all these years. So hopefully we can get the PowerPoint here working. I'm English originally, got into the business in London, and since then I've had kind of an interesting journey across North America, starting in Philadelphia as an assistant room service manager, which I did for 6 weeks, and I couldn't handle it because there was no guest contact. It drove me crazy being in the back and not having that guest contact. So I soon got out front and ended up becoming a restaurant manager there. And after 2 years in Philly, I moved to Dallas. Has anybody been to Texas? A few of you, that's good. It's a different country, right? To the rest of the USA, I mean. Great state of Texas. 3.5 years at the Four Seasons Dallas, where I became director of restaurants. And then I got to move to a small place in the middle of the Pacific called Maui, you may have heard of. Terrible destination. I became food and beverage director there. And after 4 years in Maui, it was the first time I put my hand up in my career and said, I really need to get off this rock in the middle of the Pacific. It's great, but I need to get back to civilization. And so they sent me to the big island of Hawaii. It's a slightly larger rock in the middle of the Pacific. And opened the Four Seasons Resort Hualalai there. And then in 1997, I was lucky enough to move to LA, to the Regent Beverly Wilshire. You may have heard that. Pretty Woman Hotel, Beverly Wilshire, Four Seasons Hotel. As food and beverage director, 3 years there, and a really short move down to San Diego, Four Seasons Resort Aviara, where I was promoted to hotel manager. Went through 9/11 there, built a swimming pool, built a spa, learned about construction, and did enough to be able to move to Four Seasons New York, which is one of our flagship hotels. We have a few flagship hotels, as any company does. Ours are Four Seasons New York, Four Seasons Georges V in Paris, Four Seasons London, and Four Seasons Maui, as well as Four Seasons Hong Kong. They would be what we term A-list Four Seasons hotels, so I'm lucky to have worked for a few of those. A couple of years in New York, and back to Maui. A few air miles on my frequent flyer card at this point. 3 years in Maui, major renovation, spent $50 million of Michael Dell's money, which is a pleasure to spend, I can tell you. Redoing the rooms, redoing a restaurant, redoing the laundry, building a new swimming pool. Very exciting stuff, and I did well enough to be able to hop up to Four Seasons Vancouver 2 years ago, which is when I started as general manager there. And the last 2 years has been an incredible journey. Again, doing a renovation. Everywhere I seem to go, we seem to be renovating. It's nice now to kind of just go, oh, thank goodness we're not renovating. We're actually enjoying running a hotel versus renovating a hotel. So, I was asked to speak a little bit about changes in the 20-some years. I've stopped saying the number of years I've been working for Four Seasons because it makes me feel really old. So I talk now in the number of hotels, which is actually 10 hotels, because in the middle of that, there was an assisting period at the Four Seasons in London. So a couple of major changes. Managing versus leadership. That was something that Ted and I talked a little bit on the way over after picking me up from the airplane. When I started this business, it was all about what you knew. It was facts. You had to know about vineyards, you had to know about grapes, you had to know about food. It was all technical stuff and how-to stuff. And the more you knew, you got promoted. Because if I knew more than you did, I'm going to get the job. Didn't matter whether I was a good leader or not. Leadership, you don't need to know that. People come in, you tell them what to do, they go away, they do that, and then when they need more instruction, they come back and say, please, sir, what else would you like me to do for you? And obviously, growing up in England, that was very much the way that hotels were run. So when I came to the States, it's like, leadership, empowerment, what's that all about? It was like a whole different language for me. Thankfully, I can speak the language now. It took me a few years. Big change that I've noticed in our industry is learning and development. Careers and how we help students, how we help first-year people, how we help experienced people is absolutely critical to the workplace. Because if you're in my workplace and you feel that I'm developing you, there's a bond there, right? You're going to feel like I care, because I'm here to make you better at what you do, or ultimately to promote you and help you grow, okay? That helps connectivity, obviously, and really, really has been a positive workplace change. Every single manager at the Four Seasons Vancouver has a development plan, which they do as a result of their yearly review. And I sit with every manager and I talk about their hopes and their dreams and what they want to do with their lives, because it's that important for me as a boss to be able to have that connection with each individual. Technology, as you can see, slight delay today because the technology wasn't working. So whether it's Blackberries, whether it's laptops, whatever it is, a huge puzzle, particularly for, I hate to call myself the older generation, but I guess I am. You know, how do you use Facebook as a tool in our industry? How do you use Twitter? It's a whole new world for us as a corporation trying to figure that stuff out. You guys can tell me a lot about that, so maybe when we're doing Q&A, you can give me some tips a little bit later. Last but not least, a huge shift is ownership and asset management. When I started in the business, it was about you run your hotel for an owner, you meet with an owner, maybe even every day because they live in the hotel. You have a cup of coffee, you chat, it's a relationship. You figure out problems together, you figure out capital investment. You're basically arm in arm with that owner. And about 20 years ago, this species, known as asset managers, started getting involved in our business. Some of you may end up being asset managers. Some of you may end up being general managers. Not necessarily on opposite sides of the table, because that's really one of the fundamental flaws in the system, with an owner who has hired me as a hotelier, or me as a company, as Four Seasons, to run their property, and then they hire this gentleman over here to manage me. Well, you're hiring me to manage the resource, so why don't we just do it together? So many properties get off track in how that triangular relationship works. And it's one that you really have to work at very, very hard, understanding that the best interests of the owner always have to come above personal interest. Okay, so managing this relationship is actually very, very time-consuming for all of us as hoteliers. Probably too time-consuming, all said and done, but one that you have to be good at. So, what makes Four Seasons successful? Would you say that Four Seasons is successful? Okay, good. It's a relief. Quick reality check there. Comes down to 4 pillars, which have been built up over the years. Four Seasons, as you may or may not know, was founded by a gentleman called Isidore Sharp. Hopefully you've all heard of him. Not only a great hotelier, but a great Canadian. 1965, he opened his first hotel, which was the Four Seasons Motor Lodge in Jarvis Street. For those of you that don't know, Jarvis Street is actually part of the red light district in Toronto. So from humble beginnings, we've now become 85 hotels across the world, okay? Izzy is a builder by trade. What he does is build hotels, and that's really his background. So when you walk around a building with him, you're dealing with somebody who really understands what it takes to make a building work, which is actually a fascinating experience. So as we've grown over the years, there are 4 elements, hence the 4 pillars: quality, service, culture, and brand, that have kind of kept us on track, kept us true to where we're going. Before I get into the 4 pillars, just a real quick thing about innovation and creativity. Our company is well known for a lot of firsts in the industry. Who do you think first thought about putting shampoo in their hotel room? Four Seasons. Can you believe that?